Hey, Bisisa, and welcome back to the VDL. Here we are for week 6 against the Tentacruel Pirates. So currently I am 3-2, and I'm really hoping for the fourth win because that would definitely reach my goal for the season. However, we are against a very good coach who is currently, I believe, ranked third in the power rankings according to last week. And in addition to that, we have a very tough matchup. So looking at their team, we can see that they have a pretty good trick room mode. Within Trick Room, they have Double Blade, which is a steel mon that does really good damage and can also take pretty good hits. They have Carbink, which can set up Trick Room, has Meteor Beam as the rock typing, and is incredibly defensively bulky. They have Scrafty with Intimidate and fighting stab damage. They have Heatran, which has a steel and fire stab. That with Sugarberry can pretty much take almost any hit from my team. And in addition to that, they have some a pretty annoying mon in Rillaboom, and the fact that I actually don't have a single grass resist on my entire team. So Grassy Glides into my team does massive damage. And if it's a Yachi Berry, it can also survive pretty much an attack from any of my mons. So with that, I definitely struggled a lot with this prep. I considered using, and I've actually prepped with teams with all 11 of my Pokemon. And I decided on this group of 6. So I start with Darmanitan, which is Choice Band. It's Adamant, Choice Band, Max Attack, with Icicle Class, Crash, Flare Blitz, Superpower, and U-Turn. So one of the nice things about this Darmanitan set specifically is that -1 Superpower is guaranteed to one-hit KO Scrafty and guaranteed to one-hit KO Heatran. So even if they intimidate my Darmanitan, I can still get the one-hit KO, which is really big. Um, I definitely consider some more interesting sets of the Darmanitan, but I went with the old reliable, which is just a choice item plus, guerrilla tactics. Next, we have the Ninetales, which does a couple of things. It outspeeds most of their team. Heliolisk is the only Pokemon on their team that can outspeed, but technically is a speed tie. Other than that, it sets up the Hell, which does a little bit of chip damage, gives me 100% accurate blizzards for itself and the Rotom. And in addition, its fast speed lets me do encores to protects or fake outs on Pokemons like Scrafty. In addition, the Moonblast threatens to kill Scrafty if it's not AV or Roselia Berry. Next, we have the Glacier with Occaberry. We have Protect, Icicle Crash, High Horsepower, Ice and Ground hits everything on their team. Pretty much, I think there's only one mon that it doesn't hit for super effective, which is the Mesprit. And then we have Swords Dance so that I can get a little bit, undo the attack drops from Intimidates and get a little bit good damage. One of the nice things is that Glastrier at +1 is guaranteed to one-hit KO a Heatran through a Shukaberry, which, so if I can get, even if I'm at -1, if I get a Swords Dance off, I can still one-shot the Heatran. Next, we have the Mr. Rhyme. So one of the strange things is I actually have a min speed Glacier, and I actually don't have Trick Room because my only Trick Room setter in Mr. Rhyme is actually Assault Vest this week. I went with Assault Vest because I think the Assault Vest is somewhat needed to be able to deal with defensively deal with the Heatran. And so, in addition, I wanted it to be pretty good offensive damage this week, and so I can definitely not, invest as much in defensive bulk. So in order to be, to do the damage output, the Assault Vest helps me with that. And we get the Ice Beam that hits most of their team, Shadow Ball specifically for the Doublade, and the Focus Blast for the Heatran and the Scrafty. Next, we have Arctivish, which I guess should probably have been a little bit closer to the Ninetales. It's Slush Rush with Ninetales. We got the Vicious Wren, which does good damage. Icicle Crash, which hits everything else except for Tentacruel, and then Psychic Fang specifically for Tentacruel. We get the Protect so that we can protect in front of fake outs, and then the Rindo Berry so it can survive any attack from a Rillaboom that's not a damage boosting item. And so even if it's, I can survive an Adamant max attack Woodhammer in grassy terrain with the Rindo Berry. Assuming the Rillaboom is Yachi Berry, which is the most likely item in my guess. And then finally we have Rotom. So Rotom is here to be annoying and to reduce damage. So we have Area Impulse, mainly to lower the damage of Heatran, but it also can damage any of the other possible special attacks they breathe. And then Will-O-Wisp, which can burn the Scrafty and the Rillaboom and the Doublade and other mons like that, and does a little bit of passive damage. And top of with the Hell, it can do pretty good damage, doing with the combination, but mainly just there to lower the damage output so some of my mons in the back or next to it can take those hits and do big, and be able to deal with them. So with that is my team, and let's get into the match. So here we are for game one. So looking at my opponent's team, they have a lot of what I was expecting, except I was not expecting the Heliolisk. So I immediately think, why would they have Heliolisk on their team? It is pretty fast compared to some of my mons, and I definitely immediately think that it's going to be Dry Skin. So it becomes a free switch in and actually can heal up into Vicious Rins from the Arctivish. And so I immediately say, okay, I probably shouldn't lead my Hell, and I maybe shouldn't even bring a game one. And so if I'm not bringing Hell, the big question is what is my lead? Because I was definitely hoping to be able to lead Hell in game one. And so from here, I decide I probably should lead the Mr. Rhyme, just because it's a good versatile mon to lead with Fake Out. Pretty good damage. You can take pretty good hits from anything. And the question then is, what's the good mon in the back? We have Darmanitan as an option, which is good offensive pressure, and the other one is Rotom, just as annoying, disruption for the mons in the back. I decide to go with the Rotom because I think that it can be more, beneficial. So with that, let's get into the match. So my opponent leads Rillaboom and Scrafty, and I lead Mr. Rhyme and Rotom. And they end up setting up the Grassy Surge, and they end up revealing to be Intimidate on the Scrafty, which is definitely what I was expecting to see. So here, I think the play just go for a Fake Out into one of these two mons. I'm expecting Fake Out from either Rillaboom or Scrafty, and so I decided to just Fake Out the Scrafty because I think Rillaboom is likely going to go for a Fake Out, and then I go for the Will-O-Wisp, and debating between going into the Rillaboom and the Scrafty, I decide the Rillaboom is going to be the more annoying of the two. So Rillaboom just goes for the Fake Out into my Rotom, and I just go for the Fake Out into the Scrafty, and so we basically just switch Fake Outs. Nothing really happens except for the fact that I have a little bit of damage on Rotom. So from here, I definitely think of a couple ideas, but the main, I think the big decision is just whether or not I want to Ice Beam into Rillaboom or Focus Blast into Scrafty. I decide to Ice Beam to Rillaboom and go for the Will-O-Wisp on Scrafty, kind of, mixing up my two attacks. And so we take a pretty big hit from that Grassy Glide. However, luckily we do get to connect the Will-O-Wisp, which is going to dramatically lower the damage output of Scrafty for the rest of the game. And we see here that our Ice Beam goes into a Yachi Berry Rillaboom, which is definitely the item I was expecting to see, but it still does almost 50% into the Rillaboom, which means I'm definitely getting a kill if I hit it again. And the Brick Break just does a little bit of damage, so I'm pretty happy with how little damage that did. And so here, Grassy Glide is just going to kill Mr. Rhyme if I keep it in. And so I definitely feel like I want to switch it out. And so I decided to switch out into Glacier since it should take either of these hits. And the big question is, do I want to go for Will-O-Wisp or Blizzard? And I believe a Blizzard should kill Rillaboom from this range. And so I just go for the Blizzard. However, they do switch out the Rillaboom into a Heatran. And so this Blizzard's not going to do as much damage, but these hits do a little bit of chip and also are going to threaten to freeze, which can definitely be really impactful. And so the Blizzard does pretty good damage in Scrafty, and it does very negligible damage to the Heatran. And Scrafty reveals Snarl, which is going to lower my damage output on the Rotom, but it's not that big of a deal because Rotom in front of the Heatran is mainly just going to be using Eerie Impulse. And so here, I definitely just want to high horsepower into Heatran and Eerie Impulse it. This gets really punished if they protect. However, thinking about it a little bit, I'm like, what's the worst that they do if they just switch out or protect? Because Scrafty doesn't threaten that much offensively now that it's burned. And so we get the Eerie Impulse, which is going to half the damage of Heatran, which is really nice. They go for a Heat Wave, which ends up activating my Aqua Berry. So this is going to do very minimal damage, which we see it does, maybe 10% to Glacier. It does pretty good damage to Rotom, but with the Citrus Berry, I should definitely take another with the Rotom, especially if I do another Eerie Impulse. And the Drain Punch just goes into the Rotom, or the Glacier. It does, pretty reasonable damage, but not that notable, especially with the Grassy Terrain recovery. And so here, the Heatran ends up revealing Sugar Berry, which is the item I definitely expected. However, even with the Sugar Berry, I'm doing close to 60-70%. and I can definitely threaten to kill it next turn. So here, the big question is whether or not I should read the obvious protect on the Heatran, because the obvious play for me to do is just another Eerie Impulse into the Heatran to make sure it doesn't do much damage, and then high horsepower to get the kill. However, it can be really awkward if they switch out, or if they just protect here. And so I'm kind of trying to figure out maybe a middle ground between those. And so I decided to just go for the high horsepower into the Heatran, which should kill it. And then the Blizzard, Blizzard is good if they switch into something like a Rillaboom, because it should kill if I connect. And also, it does a little bit of damage in case they protect, like we do here. And so they do protect. The Blizzard ends up luckily connecting into the Scrafty, but now that I'm at -1, it doesn't do a huge chunk of damage. It does a little bit of damage, and they just go for a Drain Punch into the Rotom, getting back a little bit of HP. And so we're definitely in this really awkward stage where we honestly aren't even doing any damage to the Scrafty, even though we're hitting it with Blizzards, and it's burned because of the Drain Punch healing and the Grassy Terrain healing. So Grassy Terrain finally goes away, and here the obvious play is just to go for the high horsepower, getting the kill on Heatran here, and going for either an Eerie Impulse to prevent it from getting good damage into my Mon, or switching out Rotom to try to save it. I decide to lean towards the Eerie Impulse into Heatran to minimize its damage output. This will only really get punished if they switch in Rillaboom. However, if I do this Eerie Impulse, and if I don't do the Eerie Impulse and they do something like Overheat, there's a chance that it could kill Heatran, especially if it's modest max attack. So we end up just going for the second Eerie Impulse. So now they're at -4 special attack, which means that it's doing a third of its normal damage. And so with this, they go for the Overheat, which ends up still doing pretty good damage despite it being at -4. However, now Heatran is at -6. They end up going for the Drain Punch, which just barely misses out on the kill with the Rotom. And the high horsepower does connect and ends up finishing off the Heatran and putting me in a pretty okay position, especially because the Glastrier able to get up to +1 after the Chilling May boost. So they end up bringing out Heliolisk, which I definitely was surprised. I was expecting to see Rillaboom here. So here, there's not much for me to do except just protect the Glastrier, and the question is, do I want to save Rotom or not? And because they have Rillaboom in the back, I don't think it's really worth trying to save, because Rillaboom can always just one-shot it at any point. And so I just decided to go for an Eerie Impulse in case they they don't hit it with the Heliolisk. And so here, Heliolisk ends up going to the Protect of the Glastrier, which is really big, because I'm able to get an Eerie Impulse off into it, lowering its special attack, which can be really relevant. It might be able to let me survive an attack with one of these mons. And once again, the Scrafty just goes for a Snarl, which surprisingly doesn't even kill, despite me being at so low HP. So here, the question is whether or not I think Glastrier is going to survive an attack, and I honestly am unsure. So I considered switching out into something. However, I decided to kind of make a bet that I'm going to survive. And also the fact that I don't think I have a great switch in even if I don't survive. And so here I just decided to go for that, and then the Blizzard, because the Eerie Impulse is not going to be relevant, because either Glastrier is going to kill it or Glastrier is going to die, and I think the Blizzard just is more relevant in this point. So they end up going for a Breaking Swipe, which I definitely was not expecting, but it does so little damage. And though it does bring me down back to neutral, I'm still going to do massive damage and probably bring it down this Heliolisk to Sash, because we know the Sugar Berry was on Heatran, so it can't have Sugar Berry. And so this definitely going to kill if it's not Focus Sash. And we end up connecting, and it ends up killing, and Heliolisk was in fact not Focus Sash, which is really big. I definitely think that, based on my guess, that if they just Thunderbolted into the Glastrier, they probably would have killed it. And I definitely think that, maybe they were reading the switch out there, but definitely really convenient that they decided to not go for the Thunderbolt. And so here, the obvious, play is to think, the thought is, oh, we can bring up Mr. Rhyme. But Mr. Rhyme seems actually a little bit risky given the fact that we know that Rillaboom actually outspeeds and can fake out before me. And so the play here is to actually bring out the Darmanitan, because Darmanitan actually threatens to one-hit KO both of these two Mons. And in addition to this, if they fake out the Darmanitan, either Darmanitan survives the turn because they don't double up, and Glacier gets to kill one of these two, or they have to kill kill the Glacier, and Darmanitan is still at almost max HP with only taking a fake out. And then also another thing about the switch in is that after the next turn we can fake out with Mr. Rhyme, and if we lose one of our Mons, and that is also really impactful. And so here the big question is whether or not I think that a Drain Punch from Scrafty is going to kill the Glacier. I can see an argument to protect. However, I think that I need to do a double attack, because if they double up into Darmanitan, I am in pretty bad shape if Glacier doesn't attack, and I think I'm in okay shape if they just go with this. And so they go for the fake out, which ends up doing pretty good damage into the Darmanitan, and the Drain Punch ends up just finishing off the Glacier, which is a little bit sad, but from here I feel like there's definitely a clean end game for me. So we switch in the Mr. Rhyme, and so Mr. Rhyme threatens fake out on either of these Mons, and whichever one I fake out can be very good. And the question is do I have a guaranteed win condition? And this is where I'm thinking is, so I expect Scrafty to not have Protect. And so if I fake out Rillaboom and attack Scrafty, if I hit it with a move that is a one-hit KO, then I should be able to win if that move I click also one-hit KOs the Rillaboom. So here it's a little bit tricky because I know I should take a Glassy Glide with Darmanitan. And so I need to lock into a move that kills Darmanitan. And so I know that Icicle Crash kills Rillaboom. However, I'm not sure if Icicle Crash kills Scrafty. So this is definitely a little bit of a risky play, because if this doesn't kill or doesn't connect, I definitely am in bad shape, because they just protect into the fake out from Mr. Rhyme. So the Choice Band Stab Icicle Crash goes into the Scrafty, and it just misses out, or just gets the KO, which was hugely lucky, because I'm assuming they would have probably finished off the Mr. Rhyme there. Definitely, I checked this later on. That was definitely a roll at best, and I definitely think I got pretty lucky with that roll, because now this game is pretty much guaranteed over, because Ice Beam and Icicle Crash should both kill the Rillaboom, and I should take a Grassy Glide from Rillaboom at this range. And so no matter what they do, I should be able to get the win. However, they just finish off the Rillaboom, or Rillaboom just finish off the Mr. Rhyme with Grassy Glide, and just hope I need to connect one of two Icicle Crashes for the win. I connect the first one, and this is definitely going to kill because the Octavary has already been proc. We were able to get there game one. That was really close. I think I'm pretty happy with how in the end game, even though I think it was a little bit risky with the Icicle Crash instead of something like Superpower. However, we were able to get game one, and let's continue the second match. So here we are for game two. So game one, I ended up winning. I definitely think I got a little bit lucky with some of the plays they chose to make and some of the things I ended up going. However, I know DGS is a great player, and so I'm very concerned of just leading the same lead and having the same 4, which is definitely what I feel like I want to do. And so I'm thinking about what I should do instead. And in prep, one of the best leads I had was the Ninetales Arctivish, and I'm considering maybe I should just run that lead because it's a switch up. It did good in prep for me, and in addition to that, I don't expect the same lead to work twice based on how good of a player they are. So I just go for the Ninetales switch up, and Mr. Rhyme in the back because it's just in my best mon, and Glacier as my 4th just as a bulky switch in case they somehow get Trick Room up or something like that, because without it, Trick Room kind of crushes this team composition. And so with that, let's get into the match. So they end up leading Heatran and Mesprit into my Arctivish Ninetales. So this lead honestly is not that bad for me. Arctivish threatens to one-hit KO the Heatran, And in addition to that, you know, I outspeed it, and I outspeed both these mons. So I 100% expect Heatran to protect or switch out here. And so the plan is to go for the double up into Mess Spirit. And so the big question is basically whether or not I Fishious Rend and Moonblast into it, or Fishious Rend and Blizzard into it. Plus side of Blizzard is if they switch in something like Rillaboom or Heliolisk, I get a little chip damage on it. The plus side of Moonblast is it does a little bit extra damage. I decided to go for the Blizzard. So they end up protecting Heatran instead of switching out, which makes sense. We get the Fishious Rend into the Mess Spirit, which does massive damage. And we also get the Blizzard off and the Hell. And we're hoping this kills. And just misses out. However, we luckily get the Frozen, and they stay frozen for the turn, so they don't get up Trick Room, which is most likely what they were going for, and the Hell finishes it up. Definitely think that I probably should have Moonblasted the Mess Spirit to get the extra damage. I don't think the chip on the switch-in would have been was worth the not doing the full damage, because Moonblast would have killed there. So I definitely think that was probably a misplay on my side. From here, though, they just switch into the Scrafty, and they get the Intimidate onto my Arctovish. However, Arctovish still should one-hit KO the Heatran even at -1. So here, though, you definitely considering just go for the Fishious Rend and the Encore into Heatran, because they can only fake out one. They fake out the Arctovish. However, because the Heatran protected, we get the Encore off, and it's now encored into the Protect, and we're in an amazing position. So this, it was very safe, because if whichever they protected, or whichever they faked out, I either kill it or encore it, and both is in great position. Now Heatran's completely useless. However, it's going to protect, so I can't hit it if they stay in. And so I decided to double up into Scrafty with Moonblast and Fishious Rend, which should kill Scrafty. And so from here, we're in great position. So they end up switching out Scrafty, which is a pretty nice play, especially because, I'm sure they're expecting a Fishious Rend or a Moonblast into that spot, and Rillaboom probably takes it pretty reasonable. And in addition, the Heatran's going to get a Protect here that is guaranteed to hit, or to not fail, because it failed the previous turn. And so from here, though, we are able to get pretty good damage with the Fishious Rend, even though we're at -1. And the Moonblast ends up doing pretty good damage here, even though it's not super effective. And Rillaboom gets under 50%. And with from here, it looks like it's probably even in range of a Blizzard from the Ninetales. So from this spot, I feel like I could technically just double up into the Rillaboom and probably get the kill, because I should take an attack from Rillaboom with the Rindo Bear. However, I want to reset the attack drops, and I'm expecting Shifter to come in here, and so here I just go for the Blizzard. Even if they fake out into the Ninetales, I get to fake out the following turn and go for Blizzard again. And so I definitely feel like I'm in a pretty good position with this switch out. They do switch out Heatran into Scrafty, which is the obvious play for them. And they get the Intimidate off, and the big question is what is Rillaboom going to do? Is it going to fake out, or is it going to go for a Grassy Glide into one of these mons? It ends up going to the Grassy Glide into the Arctovish slot. My Arctovish would have taken that, and my Mr. Rime does take it. However, I'm able to get a clean Blizzard into both of these mons, which is able to do very good damage and kill the Rillaboom despite the Yachi Berry. And so now I'm in very good position, because I have 4 mons, they only have 2. I have a faster fake out, which we see based on my Ice Body healing before their Hell damage, and my Grassy Terrain before their Grassy Terrain. So I know I have a faster fake out. I can fake out and Moonblast, get a guaranteed kill on Scrafty from this position. And I have Arctovish in the back, which should one-shot Heatran, which makes me in a position where I definitely think that this game should be mine, unless they have a surprise Protect on Scrafty. And so here, like I said, the obvious place is fake out. I know I'm faster, and Moonblast. This should kill Scrafty, even if it's a Roselia Berry or an Assault Vest. So as we expected, we outspeed with the fake out, and we get the Moonblast off. Then the Moonblast is able to finish off the Scrafty. We never really identified its item, but I'm pretty sure it was Assault Vest. And the Heatran is able to get a Heat Wave, finishing off my Mr. Rime and doing pretty good damage to Ninetales. So now we're in great shape. This game is pretty much wrapped. I just need to not mess up. And we see that this is the last turn of Hell. And so with Velocity and Hell, my Arctivish is no longer going to outspeed this Heatran. And so I just need to, play. I have a pretty clean win position here, where I bring out my Arctivish, and I can, from here, just go for the Protect and switch out the Ninetales into Glastrier. And then the following turn, I can switch back Ninetales, get the hell up, and outspeed the Heatran and kill with Vicious Rin. The reason this is just, I don't think this was necessary, but this is to guarantee the win in case they have some move I'm not thinking about, or if they get a Heat Wave, like free or burn, that could be really annoying, or something to that extent. In addition to this, this also pretty much guarantees the 3-0 win, which it's not really what I was planning on doing, but it's mainly to play around some sort of burn or other item like this. So now we have our guaranteed win. We Vicious Rin to the Heatran. We know it's with Shuka Berry, so it can't be the water resist berry, and with Hell coming up, we're guaranteed outspeed, and we should one-shot the Vicious Rin here. Once we get the Hell up from the Ninetales switch in. And we end up outspeeding as expected, and the Vicious Rin gets the one-hit KO, winning us the match 2-0. This was a huge win for me. I felt terrible in prep. I prepped so much this entire week, and I'm really glad that I was able to get there. All my prep all like the tech things I ended up using ended up working out pretty well. I definitely think that I got a little bit lucky with the freeze in this game. I got a little bit lucky with their decision to go for breaking swipe in game 1. However, I definitely am very glad about this match win, especially because it gives me our 4th win of the season. And with this, I am 4-2 plus 6, which means I am guaranteed to finish better than I've ever finished in the VDL, because my highest record ever was 4-4 plus 0, and this season my lowest I could possibly do is 4-4 plus 2. And so that's really big. Hopefully y'all enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed the matches, and thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.